Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is Dr. William Schnoebelen coming to you from With One Accord Ministries. And we have a brief prayer update, warning about an upcoming satanic holiday, Lammastide, which is on July 31st to August 1st, with the usual orb of a day or so around each way, where the spiritual warfare increases. And we recommend people double down and pray more urgently. But before I get into the specifics of that, I just want to address a larger problem within the body. And that's what I call modern day creeping Sadduceeism. Now, as excuse me, many of you may know, the Sadducees were a group that was around during the days of Yahushua in the Second Temple period. They basically were the ones who were in charge of the temple. They were the other major group in the Jewish faith at that time. The others, of course, being the Pharisees, which are more well known. In any event, these Sadducees ran afoul of Yahushua a few times in the gospel accounts, and the problem with them is they did not believe in the spiritual world. They did not really believe in angels or in any of these things, or in a resurrection. And today we have a similar problem. And before I get into that, I just want to read a passage that kind of addresses this. In Matthew 22:23, it says, the same day came to him Yahushua the Sadducees, which say there is no resurrection, and asked him. And then it goes on a few verses. I want to skip that in the interest of time. But about a guy dying, and many different wives, and whose wife is it in the resurrection. At the end of it, Yahushua spoke to them, and he said, this is verse 29. Yahushua answered and said unto them, Ye do err, not knowing the Scriptures nor the power of Yahweh. And then he goes on to answer the question. But the point is that they erred because they did not know the Scriptures that well, nor did they know the power of Yahweh. And here's the thing. These modern day Sadducees, and unfortunately a lot of them, are evangelical Christians, or even mainline, even more so mainline Protestants, who basically deny the reality of the spiritual world. What in our book Blood on the Doorpost I call the excluded middle. They obviously believe in the earth plane, and they also believe, well, most of them anyhow, that there's a heavenly realm where Yahweh and his angels dwell. But they don't really take into any account this middle realm. And that's a serious problem, because that means they basically do not consider the demonic. They do not consider the elements of spiritual warfare that are so obvious in the Scriptures, where we have to do combat, hand-to-hand combat against spiritual forces. These are the people that basically say, "Oh, you guys just are finding a devil under every bush or every rock," and they satirize us in that way, the believers that do believe in these things. And they don't understand the Scriptures, and they don't understand the power of Yahweh. And these are people that are materialistic. They are more secularistic, even though they don't know it. And I'm sure many evangelicals would take offense at that. But they're very reductionist. They do not really take this stuff seriously. And that is why the church, well, it's one of several reasons why the church today has lost so much of its power to impact the environment, to impact the broader cultures, because most of them, I would say probably 90% of Christians, are unwilling to wage spiritual warfare against the forces of darkness. They're willing to go out and vote and maybe demonstrate for for the abortion issues and things like that. And that's all well and good. But that's not where the combat needs to take place. The combat needed to take place in the spiritual realm, where we are literally not wrestling against, as Paul says, flesh and blood, Supreme Court justices or presidents or abortion clinics. We are wrestling against principalities and powers, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And this is a big issue. And because of that, it's like a large majority of the church, and maybe I'm being too harsh here with 90%, but I dare say at least 75%, it's like they're AWOL from this spiritual field of combat. And so I'm not speaking now to the people that are subscribed to this channel, to the people that support us. They all understand these things. I'm speaking to the larger body of Messiah, and how you're basically, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, as the saying goes. You need to get down on your knees and pray and do warfare. Like just one example, if you are concerned about abortion, you need to go to the local Planned Parenthood or whatever it might be that's providing this unrighteous practice, and come against the spirit of Baal, come against the spirit of Lilith and the spirit of Moloch, because all of these are involved in abortion. You need to do those things. You need to take the prayer that is available on our website for free download, Divorcing Baal, and do that prayer over the abortion clinic. It's not just enough to carry a sign. It's not just enough to, every year go to the Supreme Court and picket, because obviously Roe v. Wade has been around like for a generation, and none of that seems to matter because we're not taking the spiritual ground back. So this is critical. Please do these things. Take the spiritual realm seriously. If you don't believe it is a real reality, realize that in the Bible, it's very much reflected to be a spiritual reality. I mean, you read like Daniel and the account of the Prince of Persia and Michael the Archangel and all this. You can see there's real heavy-duty combat going up there above us. And we need to be part of that. We really do. Okay. End of little sermonette. Let me just tell you about Lammastide. Lammastide is another feast. It's either called Lammas, or in like the old Gaelic or Welsh, it's Lugnasad. And essentially, it's one of the 8 major festivals of both witchcraft and Satanism. And again, I want to clarify that what I'm about to say is not true of Wiccans, of white witches. They do keep this feast, but in a more benign way. They do not do animal or human sacrifices. Obviously they're lost people who need Yahuwah and Yahushua, but they are not in any way doing these kind of evil things. But the Satanists and the hardcore evil people in the upper branches of all of this that are behind the facade of Wicca, the upper level people, this is a season where there is sexual sacrifice being done to young girls or women from 7 to 17, and it's also a time of animal sacrifice, and these things are done to please the false Elohim, Satan, and all of the different Elohim that are involved in it. So we need to pray against this. We need to come against the principalities and powers of Lammas, and against witchcraft, and against Satanism for the next few days, and to realize that the spiritual warfare, which has pretty much been unprecedented levels of intensity the last month or two, are going to amp up for the next few days. So gird up your armor, raise up your shield of faith and the large shield of favor and your sword of the Spirit, and go out there and both protect your family, and especially if you have young daughters, please keep an eye on them over the next few days. Please pray over them every time you let them out of the house, and take this stuff seriously, because the favorite thing that Satanists have is to kidnap a Christian young lady or young girl who's still has her virginity, because that's what they love. That's what a sexual sacrifice is. It's a deflowering of an innocent young woman. So pray against these things, come against the spirit of Lammas, come against the spirit of Lugnasad, and we have a prayer on our website about this that's called, prayer against dark angels and dark seasons, and use that prayer and just smite these things hip and thigh. Don't take any spiritual prisoners at all. Ask Abba Father to just lay waste to their armies and declare victory in the name of Yahushua, in the name of his cross and his shed blood and his resurrection over these things. And I would pray that you would do this, and that you would again share this video with other people you might know that are intercessors, that are prayer warriors, and spread the word. Please, this is deadly serious stuff, especially for our young people. And intercede for your family and intercede for your community at the same time. Okay, we thank you for listening, and please share this video. Please subscribe to this video, and please pray about supporting our ministries. Thank you very much, and we just encourage you to remember that we are the victors in this, because we've read the end of the book, and Yahushua is the victor, and we are with him. Hallelujah. Thank you so much, and shalom.